Hello and welcome back to episode 4 of From the Pitch to the Pros. I'm here with Sophia Braun and Kaelon Fox, two professional soccer players who are here to shed some wisdom and some light on their journeys in the game. So today we are focused on the mind and body and preparations for big competitions. So today we're really just going to chat about Kaelon and Sophia's preparation strategies for players who are looking to excel in those big critical moments. So my first question for you two today is more on the mental side, the more of the mental conditioning. So how do you typically mentally prepare yourselves leading up to big competitions? Are there like big routines or specific techniques that you use to get into the right mindset?
I can start.
Also, yes, wait, before we even continue, Sophia's at the World Cup right now.
Oh,
So yeah, why don't we start with you, Sophia, and if you want to share a few like points on where you are, what team you're representing, just for those who may not know who are listening.
yeah, sure. So I'm in Auckland, New Zealand right now. We have our first game on Monday here, but Sunday in the US. And I'm playing for Team Argentina, and I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it. It's
All right.
definitely a big competition. So
Yeah, it's perfect timing. So yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about how you mentally have been preparing yourself for questionably the biggest competition you could play in your soccer career?
yeah, I think one thing for me in particular is that I'm always learning, especially with this, like the mental side of things. I think I'm always growing and improving. It's definitely not something that I thought about when I was younger or growing up. I kind of just was excited to play soccer and showed up at the field and did my best. But as I've gotten older, competition has definitely increased and like stakes have gotten higher. So I think that's kind of forced me to change my mindset a little bit, which has been super helpful. For me, honestly, like confidence is the number one thing. So if I'm confident and calm, I'm playing my best. So mentally, I'm just trying to stay in a good headspace and not worry about who I'm playing against or how good they are, just kind of focus on myself and what I can do and what I can bring to the team and to stay positive. So that's kind of what I focus on. I don't have any super awesome tricks or tips. Honestly, I'm still learning. So I probably will learn from Kaelon and maybe try it for my game Monday.
Wow, that's that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That would definitely be cool. Yeah, I think for me, I think I'm on the same page as you, Sophia. I think mental is definitely a big piece, right? Being confident, understanding that things change that are out of your control, but learning to adapt and always learning is super important. I think for me, it just comes down to routine and just being comfortable and making sure I get a good night's sleep, making sure I'm hydrating, making sure I'm eating properly. All of those things I can affect as a player. Don't let what the other team is doing or how they're preparing, things that are just out of your control that could throw you off your game. So routines really help me. Big guy on making sure I sleep well the night before, and then also eating properly and hydrating prior to the match.
Yeah, that's key. Like making sure the things that are in your control are taken care of and trusting that you'll meet the moment with whatever shows up. That's awesome. My second question is a little bit more technical, maybe on the mental side, but have you ever used visualization in your preparation for big events or big games? And if so, can you share what that process looks like to you or how you incorporate it?
I would say I'm not the best at this, but I have done it a few times. I was on a team in high school where our coach really believed in that. So we did a lot of visualizations at practice, which I really liked and I thought was really cool and helpful. Sometimes like the night before games, I'll be like, sometimes it feels like Christmas morning to me or Christmas Eve where I'm trying to go to sleep and I'm a little antsy. So I'll be in bed, like kind of visualizing, which I think is helpful at times. And especially for big games and matches, I know like leading up to this tournament, even in training, I've been like, okay, like picture this is the World Cup, like picture this is the first game, like, and that's kind of helped motivate me and push me in training situations, which has been valuable, I guess. But yeah, That's my take.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll write goals down and I'll visualize the goal like on the piece of paper, whether it's, winning aerial duels because I'm a center back or having 90% plus pass completion, etc. I do find that from time to time I'll dream, or in my dreams I'll be dreaming about the game the next day and me scoring. And I did score one time. I do remember that. So that was really cool. I dreamt about it and it happened. But for me, it's more about writing goals and seeing those and visualizing and doing it that way.
Yeah, that's huge. I'm curious too if and this is a little related, sort of adjacent, but if you ever catch yourself accidentally being negative before a big game, how do you like hit the rewind button, or how do you kind of stop that thought in its tracks and maybe try to influence your brain or your mind with a little bit more positive thinking?
Ooh, that's hard.
Are you even
Yeah,
aware when you feel yourself starting to live? Like how quickly does it go on before you can stop and be like, hold on, turn around the train?
yeah. Um, I think for me, honestly, the only time I like catch myself being negative is when I'm talking with other people. And I think part of that is I sometimes want the expectations so low that I can only exceed them. But that's not a good way to go about it. And I think it definitely affects you mentally if you're speaking that out loud. So I definitely need to work on not doing that. And obviously this is a big competition. So there's a lot of really good teams here, and there's a lot of talk even like amongst ourselves of like, it's gonna be a really hard game. Like they're really good, and I'm like, we just got to focus on ourselves. And I've been better at catching that and trying to turn it positive and be more of an uplifting vibe on the team rather than a we're screwed
Yeah,
type of
totally.
vibe.
I even like the idea of like when you speak it out loud, it sort of can have a certain like a elevated power over you or influence on your teammates. So like being really conscious of that too is probably important.
Exactly.
Yeah, if there's ever negative self-talk, I have two ways of attacking it. Like if it's off the field, oh, this is so cringe, but I'll go to YouTube and I'll watch like highlight tape of like myself doing things that like really well, so that like turn a negative into a positive. But if it's on the field, I'll just like complete the next pass, or I'll win the next tackle, or like I'll start communicating more because that's something that like I enjoy as a center back. So something to get my confidence up, and then that negative self-talk just kind of goes away. So off the field, on the field, two kind of examples there.
That's great. And we'll dive a little bit more into the on the field here in a few minutes, Kaelin. So put a pin in that. My next question, and Kaelin, you sort of touched on this, is like what role does goal setting play when you're preparing for a big competition? So like how do you set realistic but challenging objectives for yourself going into these big competitions?
Yeah, I would start with quality of the goals and not quantity. I think a lot of people will, write 10 to 15 goals in a game or a weekend, which is totally unrealistic. You're not going to check off everything. So thinking, positionally, again, I'll go back to being a center back, passes forward, aerial duels, tackles, and then just being a good leader. Those are four quality goals that if you do them every game, you're going to give your chance probably the best team of winning. So quality over quantity with goal setting.
Okay, huge. Love it.
Yeah, I love that. I think especially with the national team and leading up to this tournament, a lot of our goals have been focused on like team goals. So rather than like kind of focusing on ourselves, we want to do the best for our team, and we've set like clear goals from the very start. And I think that's been important. So we all kind of know what we're working for, and we're working for one team goal rather than a bunch of individual ones. And that's kind of helped keep our mindset on doing what's best for the team, keeping our attitude and character towards working for the team.
Yeah, that's solid. And that does affect, you're right, the mindset even days leading up to the competition or boarding a flight when you're on your way to the World Cup, and what that type of energy looks like, not just for you, but as a whole, as a team. I'm going to shift gears now a little bit and away from the mental side and talk more about the physical side. So training intensity. I know sometimes this is within your control or subject to your coach or your staff, but does your training change at all when you're preparing for a major tournament or a high profile match compared to just like your regular season?
I think obviously leading up to a game, there has to be a difference in training, just in that you got to go a little lighter when you're getting closer to the game. And sometimes in season where we can push ourselves a little more leading up to certain games, knowing that maybe we're going to be more fit in 2 months at the end of our season. Whereas a tournament like this, we kind of have to be careful. So using Beyond Pulse's technology is really helpful in that. And we've really taken advantage of GPSs and helping kind of oversee that. But also I think it's kind of been crazy, especially with this tournament, because we've been talking about our first game against Italy for like the past year, honestly, which is unique, I think. But it's been really cool just to put so much like effort and energy into one game and one team. And it's definitely never something I've experienced before. So I'm excited. I mean, it puts a lot of weight on this game, but it's been really cool to see how much prep has gone into this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say periodization is super important. You can't be on it 100% of the time, 7 days a week, 365, whatever it is, days a year. I think you need time to rest, to hydrate, to relax the body a little bit, because you'll put yourself in overdrive and you either get injured or you'll do too much and kind of burn yourself out. So as looking back, if I go to like preseason, that's a time where you can push yourself. So that way it's not coasting throughout the rest of the year, but there is games. So you're not pushing yourself as hard in practice because you have games on the weekend. So understanding your body, listening to your body, and not going 100 miles an hour all the time is going to be super important.
Yeah, for sure. I now want to get a little reflective and think back to your careers, or throughout your careers, maybe even dating back to college and high school, and consider moments when maybe you handled pressure in the wrong way or negatively, like too much pressure for a game, whether that makes you too nervous for a game or not enough excited, or maybe more focused on a negative mindset. Do you have any examples of, like a big match in the past, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years of your careers professionally and beforehand, where maybe you didn't do a great job at handling the pressure and it showed in your performance?
Yeah, I have a good example, I think. It was actually when I started playing with the national team. So I got my first cap in 2021 in the She Believes Cup in February. And I had played with the U20s, but I had never played with the full team before. And my Spanish is not great. So I show up to camp, and it's a bunch of girls that some of them have been playing together for the past like 10 years. Obviously, they all know each other really well. I can't talk to any of them because of my Spanish. So it was kind of like a hard environment to step into. I was 20, I think. So I was young also. And I remember we were playing Brazil, and Brazil was really good for our first game. And I found out the day before that I was going to start, and I was so scared, like actually terrified. And I was not super comfortable. I was definitely in a negative mindset of like, how am I starting? Why am I starting? I'm going to be awful. Brazil's so good. And I didn't really have like a great support around me, I think, at the time, just because I didn't know the girls. Like I had just met them. Now they're awesome and I'm close to all of them and they helped me so much, but it was really hard at first. And I played probably the worst game of my life. And I think I just kept spiraling negatively. Like I missed one first pass and I was like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. And then I just kept going down like a bad hill. So I think now I'm really good at being able to pull myself out of that. Like Kaelon mentioned, just focusing on the next play or completing one pass or winning one header, stuff like that really helps me get out. But back then I didn't have those awesome tools and I let myself definitely spiral.
Do you think if you could give that person, that 20-year-old version of you, advice leading up to the game, not even on the field advice, knowing that you were sort of drifting into that negative space, even a day out of the game, or maybe a few days out from the game, what would you tell her or advise her to do to maybe take care of herself a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. I think just like to stay calm. Like I'm so much better when I'm calm and confident in myself. And I think I was just like freaking out the night before. And I mean, I feel like I forgot that I was even a soccer player. I'm like, you know how to play. Like you've played games before. Like I've played in college, obviously against like good competition too. So I think just like remembering who I am and not focusing so much on like the situation I'm walking into or who I'm playing or where I'm playing, and kind of just stay centered in myself and remain calm and confident. I think that's what I would try to focus on leading
And
up.
that's solid advice. Yeah, it's like trust yourself. Like you're there for
Yeah,
the answer.
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's solid, Sophia. Kaylin, do you have any examples? You just
Yeah, my example definitely stands out like Sophia's. Is it was my first professional start or first professional game. It was out in Iceland in 2019. It was a Saturday. I'm usually a loud, energetic. I communicate a lot in trainings, and the week leading up to it, I was in my shell. I was nervous. I didn't speak much. Like I was just off, and the guys knew it. So, you think you don't want to mess this up, or, you're going to start, you don't want to score an own goal, etc. So I was just in my head. Game rolls around on Saturday, and of course, scored an own goal. So first half, ball comes in off a corner kick. I went to head it right and it went left into the back of the net. Right. So second half, I get a yellow card for a reckless tackle. So pretty low, pretty poor start. But after that, the next week of training, I said, you know what, that's done. Can't get any lower than that. So I just started to build myself up, training after training. And then that next Saturday went out and just played free, open mind, and, ended up getting, I think, player of the week or something for like the whole division. So talk about super low to super high. So I think just experience and just knowing how to adapt to those challenges, and just at the end of the day, like trusting yourself. Like you're there for a reason. They picked you. I was in a different country, didn't speak the language, stuff like that. Everything that can go wrong went wrong in game one. So just believe in yourself, and you never know, the next week you might do super well. So
hey, totally. It's like giving yourself some grace too, to be
yeah.
like, things are gonna happen and it's not always gonna go all your way. And then yeah, that's kind of the bounce back. And that leads me to my next question, which you both kind of started talking about this, and that is mindfulness on the field. So during intense matches, really, how do you stay focused and maintain mindfulness? So being aware when those negative thoughts show up, or being aware when maybe your nervous system is going a little whack. What do you do? How do you make sure that you're staying focused? And if you do start to veer off track, how do you pull yourself back on track?
Yeah, I think we both kind of touched on it, but I definitely try to focus on just like completing a pass. That's like my staple, my go-to.
Building
And
block. Yeah,
yes, my building block is one pass,
that's
which
awesome.
is honestly like a great place to start. And I think for me, obviously, when I'm calm, like I've said, I'm playing my best. And my high school coach had like a really good phrase that he always said, calm is contagious. So I kind of love focusing on that and like just telling myself to stay calm on the field, because when things go wrong, like that's when I start to spiral. But completing a pass is a great way to start. Also, another big one that I really like is like building up my teammates, like whether it's like vocally or like high fives. Like I think just having that positive energy and giving it to someone else like builds me up a lot and helps me be better on the field. So that's something that I like to do a lot. And I'm working on that in Spanish, but I'm getting there.
I love that. I love the idea of also, because that just quickly remind you, it's like, wait, this is a team sport,
Yeah.
like
And it's fun.
it is fun. Yeah, it's easy to get trapped in those like silos of like, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? But yeah, kind of touching a teammate, even high-fiving, reconnects you to that idea and that network around you. I think that's
Yeah.
solid. Kaylin?
I agree. I think just finding when you're having a bad one, everyone has a bad one at some point. You're going to miss a pass, you're going to miss a tackle. Just find two things that you know you're really good at and you excel at 99% of the time, and just focus on those for the next 5 to 10 minutes, and your confidence will go up. And like Sophia said, it'll be contagious. So
It's a great hack. That's an awesome hack. I love it. It reminds me of like video games when when your character's like low on whatever life force, and then you have to do something to get it back up.
yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
the life force with your talents. We only have a few minutes left here, so I'm gonna have just a couple more questions. Now, this one is a little tricky because I think you both are incredibly humble people. So I don't even know if this question relates to you, but maybe it just is more advice in your experience. This question is about like balancing confidence and humility. So not getting to a point where you're confident, but not to a point where you're just not doubting yourself at all, because there are elements of doubt that do help us discern what to do in different moments. So how do you strike the right balance between having confidence in your abilities but also staying humble throughout the process?
Yeah, that's tough. I think for me, I definitely am more of a person who needs to focus on building my confidence. But I think the most important thing is just remembering, like, for at least what I focus on is like I'm a teammate first, and like being a good teammate is what's most important to me. So obviously, like, I want to be confident and play my best in order to be a good teammate and to help my team succeed. But I'm never gonna reach a point where like what I want and me like playing my best is gonna outweigh what the team needs. So I think confidence is huge, obviously, but you just can't lose that piece of being a good teammate, wanting what's best for the team. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, confident and not cocky is super important here, especially with teammates. Being confident with yourself, being confident with each other. I mean, Sophia hit it nail on the head. Like, just making sure you're a good teammate. At the end of the day, it's we, not I. So making sure that you lift others around you is the most important piece there.
For sure. We, not I. My last question is more about your experience with your coaches and your staff. So leading up to these really big events, these critical moments in your career, how have coaches and staff really supported you? Like, do you have specific examples of ways that you like to be supported as a player by your coaches leading up to a big game and even during a big game?
I'm someone, it's kind of weird. I feel like I'll start with on the field. On the field, I like don't hear anything like when I'm like super focused and like in the game. So like my coach could be screaming at me and I would not hear it, or talking to me. Like, I don't hear the fans. Like, I barely hear my teammates on the field when I'm like in the zone. So I think that's kind of a hard question for me because I honestly won't listen. But when like the ball's out of play or there's like breaks, where then I can hear things. And I'm definitely like a person that thrives on positivity, and all my coaches know that. So I'm not going to respond well to someone that's screaming at me in a negative way or like pointing out things that aren't going well. Like, I'm definitely someone who responds well to like positivity, and like whether I complete one pass or like make a good tackle, something like that, and like kind of hearing like the bench cheer or my coaches like say something, that really, really builds me up. So I think just having coaches that understand like what you respond to is super important and definitely helps a lot. And I've been really lucky to have coaches who want to know those things and care about knowing those things and will treat us in the way that we respond best to. So I've had super uplifting coaches. And then off the field, obviously, just like I think everybody wants to hear that like your coaches believe in you and they're excited for you. And I think that's super important and something that I'm sure all coaches could do a better job at. But I've had really awesome coaches who have been super uplifting and kind of put a lot of positive energy and spirit into us. And I think they kind of underestimate how much that really can help you perform on the field.
Love it. Kaelin?
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I think from the top to the bottom, everyone's got to be to be bought in. Everyone's got to be, on the same page, et cetera. I think, yeah, I'm like Sophia. I'm usually the one talking on the field, just given my position. So if people are talking to me, like there's no chance I'm hearing them. If you're screaming at me, that's kind of another story. But I'm usually the guy kind of directing traffic in front of me. So there's a lot going out, but there's not a lot typically going in. So making sure just everyone's kind of on the same page is super important. And then it's funny because, like Sophia, like we've played with so many people from around the world. There's different cultures. Some you have to be absolutely direct. Some you kind of got to butter up a little bit and then kind of give them criticism. Some it just varies from culture to culture. So identifying who is the most important part of joining any new team or just being a family. Really knowing how people react and just making sure that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, love it. All right, guys, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom, as always, on big competition. Sophia, best of luck to you. We're going to be rooting for Argentina on Sunday here, but Monday in New Zealand. We're so excited for you. And yeah, until next time, everybody, thank you for tuning in.